Hello, my name is Harry Gorge. I wrote a book called The Common Sense Guide to Driving a Truck. This is a book of real-life stories of every aspect of the trucking industry, from the driving schools, the instructors, safety men and women, the company philosophies, the driving championships, all the way up to the professional driver, as well as the rules and regulations that every truck driver must abide by. Rather than a flat and lifeless manual, my book is not only informative, but filled with real experiences that I've had over 30 years in the industry. Some funny stories along the way, things that you will all relate to and have probably even seen yourselves. For the professional driver, I think this book will provide insight into why your companies institute so many stupid rules that every driver should know. As working as a driver, licensed driving instructor, former state champion and safety man, I have added stories from life on the street as a local driver, on the road as a line haul driver, at the driving championships as a contestant, and at the driving schools as an instructor, and even as a safety man. I have stories from the classroom, new hire road tests, and of course accident scene. This book covers the full spectrum of the industry. I tried to cover some of the jobs that truck drivers are expected to perform, as well as some of the different types of trailers a driver has to work with. How to tell if you're working for a good company, and some examples of how to tell if you're working for a bad company. As a driver, I wanted to be a better driver, so I read everything I get my hands on about the industry. I tried to learn something new every day. In 1981, I entered the company driving competition. Winning that, I went on to the state driving championships. I think I represented my company 12 times in the Maryland State Driving Championships and 7 times in the PAC Driving Championships. I won a couple times and even went on to represent the state of Maryland in a national competition. As a licensed driving instructor, I wrote about taking people who had never been in a truck before and turning them into safe truck drivers. I learned each student's weakness, then showed each student how to overcome their weaknesses. I made sure that each student learned as much as possible in the short time we had them. It was a real shame when a larger driving school purchased the school I worked for and turned it into a CDL mill. I did not stay there long. In fact, we opened our own driving school that stayed open until the economy tanked. Then I moved on to safety. As a safety man, I had to conduct all the training, safety meetings, accident investigation, new hire orientation and testing. I was really surprised to learn that so many people could not pass a simple driving test. They did not fail the road test because they failed the written test or could not perform a pre-trip inspection, but because they could not drive well enough. The Human Resources Department did not believe that any driver with 20 years of experience could fail a road test. They wanted anybody that could draw a breath and pass a drug test. I actually had to document their inability to drive safely. Every jump curve, every time they stopped the intersection, every time they made traffic back up at an intersection so they could complete a turn, even some that run a red light or two. For a couple of years, I carried a large red magic marker to use on the road test form so Human Resources wouldn't hire them anyway. It was a real shame what some of these experienced drivers would do during a road test and try to blame everyone else for failing them. At times, grades on the written test were so bad the company told me to stop marking the incorrect answers on the testing sheets. They were worried the insurance auditors would see this test in the employee's file and find out that we were not hiring the smartest people. We actually had a couple drivers complain to the Human Resources Department about having to take the written test. Ain't nobody told me I'd take no test to get this job. Because of this, the Human Resources Department wanted the written test stopped. They were worried that the written test would stop drivers from applying for the jobs. I explained to them that the written test would only discourage the dumb ones. Over the years and after training new drivers and performing hundreds of new hire road tests, I was seeing patterns, discovering the driver's weaknesses. Some of these drivers all had the same weaknesses. How could I help these drivers? I would find different ways to help each driver with their turns, backing, shifting, staying in the lanes, and so forth. I even come up with a list of 7 questions that every truck driver should know, and when I asked the new hire, and even most experienced truck drivers, very few knew the correct answers to all 7 questions. This is all standard stuff. I could not believe that less than 10% of those asked could give me the correct answer to all 7 questions. Plus, I also wanted to show everyone some of the weak points that most of the failing drivers had. Well over 10%, sometimes as high as 20%, failed a simple road test. Hopefully, by reading my book, Common Sense Guide to Driving a Truck, you will have a better understanding of what the safety department expects from you during your interview, training, and testing. I have a collection of a lot of very good stories and wanted to put them together in a way that would show and help the average truck driver understand the laws, rules, and regulations in an enjoyable and easy to read format. Again, my name is Harry Gorge. You can find me on Facebook. My book, Common Sense Guide to Driving a Truck, is available directly from us on eBay, from the publisher at xlibra.com, on the internet at amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, Books A Million, or your local bookstore. For more information, contact Xlibra. And thank you for giving me a couple minutes of your time. I know once you read my book, you will be glad you did. Thank you.